far would you like me to go? Um,
Um, I guess whatever you're most comfortable with, maybe childhood, if that's okay with you.
okay, so uh, I was born in New York State, and at age 5, I was sent to the Dominican Republic. My parents separated. My father had custody on myself and my sister Michelle. She was 2, I was 5, and we were sent to a small province in the Dominican Republic. And that's where I grew up until I was 18 years old. At 18, I returned to New York, Queens, and I would say my childhood was a very happy one. I grew up with my grandmother, and I had a lot of friends with whom I play, uh, and although as a child, I grew up longing for the presence of my mother, who was absent throughout all those years. So, but when I look back at my childhood, it was for the most part, I was a very happy child. I went to Catholic school and for my first 6 years, and then to public school until age 18 when I returned to New York. So when I came back to New York, I lived with my father and his wife, and things began to sort of deteriorate for me at home. Uh, my sister and myself, we didn't get along well with our stepmother, and my father also. He's a mechanic by trade, and he was not a person who communicated a lot, so I left home after having returned from the Dominican Republic. uh, uh, about a, a year. I was only in the US for about a year, and I left home, and I lived with one of my high school friends for a little while. And that's when for me things I began to sort of get off track, from the type of life that I have envisioned for myself growing up. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's really cool. Thank you for that. Okay. So next I have, if you had any previous work experience, can you explain what that was?
Okay, so in the Dominican Republic, I went to school, and I was a commercial sign painter. Something that I developed. I learned from one of my friends, and a family member who had a garage, and he my uncle challenged me to do a sign for a pickup truck he was painting, and I did it, and from there, in the little town, I became a sort of very popular uh, commercial sign painter. There in the Dominican Republic, there are businesses, and do a lot of signs on walls, for their businesses. Also, during political campaigns, there is a lot of painting also about the different party slogans and and stuff like that. So that's one thing I did. In When I came back from the Dominican Republic to New York, my first job was in McDonald's. So I work in McDonald's, both in the back and the cash register.
Mhm.
And then I worked for a company called Oculus Incorporated, as a finisher. So uh, what that means, I did. I work on prototype models for makeup, like lipsticks and in perfume bottles that um, were, basically created for photographs, and for commercial, and videos and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's a job I held for a while.
Hmm. Okay, yeah, that sounds really interesting. I love painting myself, so that's really cool. But okay, how was your educational experience prior to incarceration?
So uh, when I come back to from the Dominican Republic, I was uh, on the ninth grade. I was completing the ninth grade, and and moving to the 10th grade. And because I spoke almost no English at all, I was basically uh, pushed back like one course, and I had repeated the sixth grade also
Mhm.
uh, in Catholic school. So uh, uh, I left. Went to Flushing High School in Queens, in New York, and um, I dropped out of high school like a year uh, after having been, attended for like about a year. So I completed the 10th grade basically because I was pushed back, and then, because of what I shown, in school in the like the first 7 months of having been in high school, I showed that
Mhm.
I understand history and I can learn English,
Mhm.
and I was then moved pushed forward again. But I dropped out of high school. I had, I think, like 7.5 um, credits left to be able to graduate.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. So while you were still growing up, what were your goals and ambitions?
Uh, I wanted to be an architect. That's what I used to, my grandmother used to ask a lot, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I used to say, I want to be an architect. I want to
Mhm.
design houses. So I had that, that was one thing I used to see. Also like design, clothing design. So I will, move from an architect to a clothing designer or a musician. So in the town where I grew up, there were a lot of musicians, so I assume I was, influenced by that, and yeah.
Okay. So after that, during incarceration, what were some skills you gained that you'd say you're most proud of?
uh, During my incarceration,
Mm.
I would say having given the opportunity to attend, college while in prison, so while incarcerated. I completed my GED in like 10 years into my incarceration. College, I don't know if you know, have been removed from prison,
Mm.
and then an initiative came in called the Bar Prison Initiative, and I was transferred to a facility where credit courses were offered, and I earned my bachelor's degree through that initiative. And I will say the skills, I'm most proud of are, the and you know uh, the skills the skill of being a critical thinker, and to understand what is to think critically. My writing skills improve a lot, not just, in Spanish, but also in English and German. which I took while in college. And, so I would say my communication skills, both written and oral skills. What else? Um, uh, and the ability, I think that to be able to empathize with people, you have to have, that it is a skill that can be developed. And I usually talk about how, like when you write, like when you are writing a paper
Mhm.
for college, I had a philosophy professor who used to tell the class, if you don't have a counter argument in your paper, I will not accept it. I will give it back to you. Uh, and in thinking about what he was doing, and this is my interpretation, of course, of what he was doing, was teaching us how to empathize, because to be able to uh, look at a problem, at an argument, and see how another person will see uh, your perspective, and basically challenge your perspective. You have to be able to empathize with that perspective, and to be able to see how that other, person, whether real or imaginary, sees, the problem that you are addressing in your paper. And that is one way in which the skill of the skill of being empathetic is developed, and that's something I'm very proud of having uh, developed and thought about, while uh,
Mhm.
incarcerated.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you. Um, also during incarceration, how would you say your mindset changed as a result of your mindfulness meditation practice?
uh, how my mindset changed.
Yeah.
uh, well, yeah, that's a very, very interesting question. uh, Well, mindfulness meditation allows, us, the practitioner, to uh, become more aware of the ways in which you think and feel. You know, uh, we are encouraged, sit here and just focus on your breath, pay attention to your breath. And uh, those who have practiced, know that uh, that that is easier said than done. Like you sit down, and you know that people experience, or I experience, other body sensations, like I feel something on my face and I want to scratch, and your teacher tells you, just let that go. It's nothing there. Come back to your breath, and so from those sensations and whatever goes on in your mind, you contemplate that at one thought after another, and after another, that we tend to develop these sort of chains of thoughts that can go anywhere. uh, and focusing on your breath, um uh and being able to see that happens in your mind, makes you, and this is what mindful meditation did for me, made me more aware of that sort of chain of chaotic thinking, uh, and to become more intentional, in terms of uh, intentional in terms of, okay, uh, these are my thoughts. Where are they going? So I can question myself now, in a more clear, in a more intentional and coherent way, and as a result of being able to uh, do that, uh, to see your thinking, uh, and question your patterns of thought, uh, you can just live a more intentional life, like, and that's the change, that's what I'm trying to get, that's something I lacked before. Like, before, what I will just, whatever comes to mind first, I will react, and the thought will follow an action, without that much contemplation, and the more you practice, you meditate, I think we develop an ability to do that, like, really uh, quick, is quicker. Um, and there, and there is more, calm, you appreciate things in life in a sort of different way. uh, and I give you an example. Today, I came back to um, my place of residence, and my roommate, uh, he's worried, because I did not uh, uh, put an additional lock to the door, of our place, and he was so worrying, and I told him, Brandy, one day, first, is anything missing? No. Okay, so don't worry about it. I don't remember if I locked the door or not, but one day we will be facing death, and probably we ask ourselves, why did I worry so much about that? Uh, this additional lock at the door, and invested so much emotion, into it. So, mindfulness meditation, allows you to appreciate, things, and people. Um, I think in a more deeper, and meaningful way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, I definitely see what you mean. I love studying mindfulness too. But so do you think you could describe to me some of the service programs you were involved in while incarcerated?
Um, when you say service programs, do you mean like programs where I serve others, or others? What do you mean by service programs?
I guess where you served or helped others, if you were involved in any programs while
Um,
incarcerated.
yes, I was involved in several programs. I was an aggression replacement training facilitator,
Mm-hmm.
and for a while. And what that means is uh, I help some of my fellow, incarcerated, friends, uh, to address issues of anger and aggression, and violence, essentially, and to find how to find alternatives to violence. That's one thing I did. I also was a steering committee leader for a program called Rehabilitation Through the Arts. And what that program uh, offer theater classes, um, music, and dance. So I was part of the leadership, uh, group that facilitated the, you know, the enrollment in those classes. And I also did some theater, with the same organization. So uh, that's that. What else? uh, and and after graduation, I also work as a college clerk.
Hmm.
Yeah, in network, which
Hmm.
is what brought me here in network support services inside, which offer me a big family network in the facility where I was incarcerated. Uh, has the largest number of participants from the different groups I used to attend to. No other group had more members than network support services.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, those all sound really wonderful. But so can you describe your experiences with fellow incarcerated individuals in terms of challenges and meaningfulness?
Uh, with fellow incarcerated, um, my experience for the most part, uh, uh, some of the let me see. Can you repeat that question again?
Sure, no problem. It was,
Yeah.
can you describe your experiences with fellow incarcerated individuals in terms of challenges and meaningfulness?
Okay. In terms of challenges, so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, yeah, I grew impatient with, especially the new coming, people I met. Uh, so I forgot, sometimes I used to forget that the years that it took me to learn the things I learned, or the practices I had to go through, to be able to learn the things I learned, the books I read, what I endure in life, So, it was challenging to understand that uh, at some point, that we have different backgrounds, different experiences, and that everyone doesn't change um, the same way and at the same time that I change, So sometimes I held um, unrealistic expectation about, some of my peers. Um, in terms of meaningfulness, I made some of the best friends I ever had. Uh, in during my time of incarceration, and some of those friends are home, and in my transition from prison home has not been an easy one, and what had made it easier for me has been uh, uh, those friendships I made while inside. When I was released after 24 and a half years, having been in prison for 24 and a half years, I went to Florida. In less than 30 days, my spouse filed for divorce. I went to my brother's home, and I had to leave his home with uh, my first paycheck from my first job at a car wash, uh, to a hotel. And I had, when I paid the first, the week to stay on that hotel, I spent my first paycheck. So I had in my pocket um, uh, $40 in 100 pesos, Dominican pesos, that I had in my wallet, which is less than $2, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. And I reached out to some of the friends who with whom I had spent time in prison, and I explained, what I was going through. I was at the verge of being basically becoming homeless, and 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 one of the friends I made in prison, uh, uh, that I call, uh, asked me, "Would you like to move with my brother?" And I said, "Where is your brother?" And he said, "Oh, he lives in Orlando." I said, "Okay." And and I was expected to pay like $80 uh, a month for a room in his house, but they never charged me anything, And I spent a couple months there until I decided to return to New York. Uh, but having um, uh, that support, uh, uh, I can even put into words what that meant to me. But your question, to go back to the question, in terms of meaningfulness, you know uh, uh, um, that's what came out of prison. Friends, like real friends who understand where you're coming from, who you are, because they spent years living with you, and and learning who you are, or who you were aspiring to become. So yeah, I have I made friends who with whom I made a bond that is as strong as if what we say, family, the family bond. They
Mhm.
are they are equal to or greater than family. When you compare it from depending on the family member,
Mhm.
but great friends.
That's great. That's so great to hear. So next I have, did your incarceration experience include educational opportunities? And if it did not, would you have wanted it to?
Um, yeah. So at first, the educational opportunities were removed, as I said
Mhm.
earlier. So it was not until like a decade into my incarceration that this private initiative came into the prisons to offer college. So, the answer is yes. But I had, that opportunity. And I would like to stress, because of a private initiative, something that is not offered to everyone, and that I believe it should be offered, to every incarcerated person, should have that open door for them if they choose
Mhm.
to pursue college education. Uh, so, uh, but I also wanted to continue. And the opportunity, for example, at the facility where I was, to enroll in a master program was not there. And I wanted that. In New York, there is only one facility offers a master degree program, and that's Cincy, which is a maximum correctional facility. So by the time I applied to that program, the master degree program, I was already at a medium facility and close to the date where I was going to face parole board, which determines, whether I was going to be released or not. So I was accepted in that program, but around the same time, I was granted release on parole. So I basically had to withdraw, my acceptance into the program, hopefully, to give the opportunity to another person, and I went home. So, but yes, that's something I wanted. I wanted to continue my education, get a master degree, or even a PhD if it will have been available. But yeah.
Mhm. Of course, of course. So, also, what would you say you value in your work experience in terms of future careers or jobs?
Okay. What say I value.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, uh, say that again.
Sure. I said, what would you say you value in your work experience in terms of future careers or jobs?
Um, I value a lot what I'm learning now. So I'm working as a contact tracer for the test and tracing corps, which is basically a new initiative in New York, and people are learning at all levels about the challenge about this unprecedented um, challenge, this virus. And I value a lot, what I'm learning there while, uh, uh, performing that role. And the other part of the question is in terms of my career
Mhm.
goal. So uh, uh, let me repeat that part of the question for me again, if you don't.
Okay, yeah, it wasn't really two questions in one. It was just what do you value in your work experience in terms of your future career?
Okay, what do I value?
Hmm.
Oh, I value what I'm learning,
Right.
in every day. Uh, and how people, again, how my supervisors and what I can see, about, the hierarchy uh, that governs this initiative, what I'm learning uh, from them, as some of them, express that they are, also that they are learning as they go, and as we also are doing. Um, in terms of for and that's important, for my future career, because I still have an interest in public health and in other areas that uh, uh, are related to uh, uh, public health, in some of what I studied before um, getting into this field.
Hmm. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Thank you. So, the next one I have is what fields are you interested in pursuing, as of now?
As of now,
Yeah.
uh, public health,
Mm-hmm.
immigration, in international affairs. Those things basically. I'm interested in pursuing, some type of field that wraps up. I love teaching too, so hopefully I'm able to find a career path that allows me to uh, 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 explore the intersections, between foreign affairs or foreign policy, international affairs, and public health, and immigration law. How those things basically, especially, how public health uh, shapes uh, foreign policy. The policy of one nation towards another. Uh, uh, some ideas are sort of vague, still, ambiguous when it comes to that, and are still very general. But that's what I wish to pursue. So I have some ideas about Central America, migration from Central America, and the problems, public health problems there, you know, and the politics of the United States towards South America because of the migration, and those things are still vague, and that's why I feel that I should pursue something along those, problems.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So, what skills would you say you've developed after incarceration?
What skills I develop after incarceration? So I'm learning a lot how, uh, how to use um, more computer skills, because it took years before I was, able to get access to a computer. For example, I've just recently learned, med tech in one of the jobs I had, um, in Salesforce, Red Cap, uh, how to Google things, so
Mhm.
how to use my phone.
Mhm.
So, all there is, new technology. Yeah. So
Okay.
I've been learning those as I go, since my release date.
Okay, great. So, do you think these skills match your current position in a way that satisfies you?
Yeah. The new skills I'm learning,
Mhm.
or
Like the skills you've developed, yeah, that you have now.
uh, all of
Yeah.
them.
All of them.
Okay. So uh, so satisfaction can lead sometimes, to conformity. So I want to say yes, but I want to say no too, because I still have those goals and other skills that I have not been able, to show, or to be in a place where I can, you know um, uh, utilize those skills. So uh, no, I'm not satisfied yet. Although, what I'm doing now, because of the skills, some of the skills I learned, while in prison, um, have been producing, great satisfactions.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So, if it weren't for your incarceration, do you think you would have been exposed to mindfulness practice?
That is very, very unlikely. So, uh, one is I still, and just recently, one of the areas assigned, uh, 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 that I've been assigned to work, is the same area where I used to be before. I I I have not seen any mindfulness or uh, uh, meditation organization or temple in that area. That's one. Um, it's not as I see it now. It doesn't seem like a high crime area the way it was when I used to reside in that area. Uh, you know, uh, but I don't think so. I don't think I will have been exposed to uh, mindfulness
Mm.
meditation at that time. Yeah.
Okay. So, going along with that question, how did you learn about network support services?
I learned about network support services when I was transferred from um, Eastern Correctional Facility to Woodburn Correctional Facility. In at Wood, that network services were not offered at Eastern Correctional Facility, at that prison. And when I arrived at Woodburn, the same person who helped me when I was in Florida was the same person who introduced me to network support services. He told me, "Oh, there is this great program, and this lady who comes on Saturdays, called Miss Williams, and and he was the one who extended the invitation to me. And I went on a Saturday, I remember, uh, and that's how I learned, through a friend. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, would you say your life would have been different had you been practicing meditation prior to incarceration?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, because my what led to my incarceration. I took a person's life, and it had a lot to do with my inability to uh, to think before uh, reacting, or acting. Uh, you know, uh, it happened because of my uh, lack of skills to contemplate my emotions, and to be able to let go, So, um, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Right. Okay, so what do you think could have prevented you from being incarcerated?
What could have prevented me from being incarcerated? Uh, wow, that's a great question. And I've been thinking about it. Um, so I will take it back. First, I don't think it was a good idea for my father to bring us back, my sister and I, back to the United States, because the conditions at home were not, the most suitable for Michelle, my sister, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that was a great idea. So leaving us in the Dominican Republic, I think will have prevented my incarceration
Mm-hmm.
too. But I came to the United States, um, and I think that uh, um, more communication at home, you know, um, will have prevented my incarceration. More communication in high school before I drop out, with my uh, counselor, who noticed that something was, before I dropped out, uh, noticed that something was wrong, because my grades were, being affected. And um, but I was taking refuge, in silence. And I don't think my counselor asked, enough questions. But what could have prevented my incarceration? Organizations in the community, right, that offer perhaps, mindfulness meditation, and counseling to parents, and the young people in the community. I think that could have prevented my incarceration. Yeah.
Okay. So the last question I have is, what would you say your goals are in terms of future housing?
In terms of future housing, uh, an apartment with 1 bedroom, small living room so I can welcome my friends. And yeah, and have some shelves like this
Mm-hmm.
behind me, uh, with books. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's that's what I aspire to, a small apartment with a bedroom.
Okay, very cool. So thank you. That's all I have for now. So we'll be in contact with either follow-up questions or the final bio for your approval.
Cool, no
Okay,
problem.
thank you. Thank you for meeting with me.
Thank you for the challenge.
No problem.
All right. And any question, don't feel, don't hesitate.
Okay, okay, got it. Thank you so much. Have a nice
Uh,
day.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks.
Be safe.
Bye.